بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, respected viewers and friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, or in this session, we are going to talk about the methodology of philosophy or philosophical methodology. What we are going to do in philosophy and how we are going to understand and acquire the truth and reality. If you remember, in the first session, we talked about the very aim and purpose, or the ultimate, let's say, of course, goal in philosophy. So it was to understand the truth, to know the reality. But now, how are we able, or how is a philosopher able to understand, of course, that reality and that truth? So this is very important. What is the methodology of this kind of understanding? Are we sure that we acquired already that truth? What are those characteristics according to which we're able to assess, or we are going to, let's say, analyze the truthfulness of that reality? So these are the questions that, by grace of God, we're going to address, hopefully. So the methodology of philosophy is a little bit different from other sciences that were already in the previous session we talked about them. The philosophical, let's say, approach and method is quite unique of its own type. So it is more rational, let's say. When we go to philosophy, let me just change the way that I'm already talking about it. We have like two different sciences. We have philosophy and kalam in Islam, of course. And kalam means theology, okay, in its general sense. What is the difference between theology and philosophy? So if I will shed light on, for example, differences between, of course, the methodological differences between philosophy and kalam, or philosophy and theology, you will better understand the philosophical methodology. In kalam, in Islamic kalam, or Islamic theology, we have like two approaches, or two, let's say, systems, or two ways that they are hand in hand work together. We have narrations, and we have reasonings, and then we have rationality. So we have mind and brain, let's say, and intellect and reason in one side. And then on the other side, we have Quranic verses. We have prophetic narrations. They work together. So if we are going to prove the existence of God, for example, one of the subject matters within both philosophy and theology. For example, we are going to bring about different arguments for the existence of God. Is it only going to be rational arguments that we are going to prove for the existence of God? Like, for example, the argument of, let's say, orderliness, or the argument of, let's say, intuitive self, or the argument of, let's say, unmoved mover by Aristotle, like these arguments. Or we have like Burhan al-Siddiqeen, or the arguments of noble or elites that Mullah Sadra brought about. Or we're going to refer to Quranic verses simply to say, okay, we believe in Quran, and Quran does say that Allah exists, and then Allah is one, and then so we believe that God is there, He is existent, and then He's one. In Kalam and theology, we have both of them. So we have on one side, philosophical reasonings, which is purely rational. So we try to say that, well, okay, these are the rational, let's say, arguments for the existence of God. And then also we have narrations from Holy Prophet, and then verses of Holy Quran to support and to fortify our, let's say, claim and acknowledgement. So this is called theology according to methodology. But philosophy does not have anything to do Quranic verses. I mean that in philosophy we cannot go into Quranic verses saying that, okay, Quran says that, So philosophy means that. No. It doesn't mean that they are oppositional. It doesn't mean that they are controversial. It doesn't mean already what I said doesn't mean that they are like in opposition to one another. No. But what I mean is that when we want to do philosophy, we cannot bring Quranic verses into our discussion. We cannot bring Quranic verses and then prophetic or let's say Imam's narrations into our favor as for example, a support for my own idea. No, this is not the way. This is not the methodology of philosophy. So by this now, we can understand at what philosophy methodologically is. So this is very important. We're going to explain it more. So I was going through a very sensitive, challenging discussion. I hope that you would not mistake me because, well, it brings about some of, let's say, inconveniences and then some problems or maybe some doubts and questions into your mind, which is, of course, by itself very good, no problem. But, of course, it should be addressed and responded as well. So when I say, again, I have to repeat my previous words. When I say that we cannot refer methodologically to Holy Quran's verses or prophetic narrations, or let's say other, of course, sort of narrations, in philosophy, it doesn't mean that they are paradoxical. It means that when we have intellectual approach in philosophy, so we are going to use only the intellectual reasonings and rationality. And then it doesn't mean that there is inconsistency, for example, between our reasoning or rational arguments and Holy Quran. I never said that. I mean that they are different. However, they can work hand in hand. So this is, of course, one point. They are separate, but it doesn't mean that they are opposite. So, I mean, conceptually, they are very much different and variant. In any case, so now when we say that philosophy is purely rational endeavor or thinking. So is it true to say Islamic philosophy? Is it true to say Western philosophy? Is it to say that philosophy belongs like to that country or that religion, or let's say Christian, for example, philosophy, or Jewish, for example, philosophy? Is it right? We have some critics that they say the combination of the terms are not in their proper place, because when we say Islamic philosophy, what it means philosophy in the service of Islam, which is meaningless, because we said that in philosophy we have to go only through rationality, and then rationality is everywhere, anytime, for all people the same. So there is no any difference, for example, between my rationality and another person's rationality. Reason is reason. And then we cannot typify, for example, reasoning to be say, okay, the reasoning of, let's say, North American countries, or the rationality of, for example, that subcontinent countries, or, for example, people. No, people would understand each other. Now we are going to, let's say, the half of the 21st century. And then in that respect, communication is everywhere. It is very easy for people to communicate, and then we understand, we make dialogues, and then everything is properly done. We do understand each other. So there is no any system of, let's say, rationalities or reasonings or arguments. So what is behind that? Now I want to explain to you. When, for example, we term and we say that, for example, we have Islamic philosophy as a quotation. Let's put these two terms with each other in a quotation mark, Islamic philosophy. It means that when, first, a kind of philosophy that belongs to Islamic countries. This is very important. So it doesn't mean that like philosophy is going to serve Islam, so it is not anymore a kind of philosophy, it's theology. No, it's a kind of philosophy that grew up, that has been cultivated, for example, in Islamic countries. That is why it is being called as Islamic philosophy. Or we can also explain it through that Muslims were those philosophers. So that is why, for example, we say Islamic, for example, philosophy. And thirdly is that the kind of mindset has been, let's say, given out, has been, let's say, conducted by Islamic presuppositions or Islamic principles. So it is not something which is abstract, which is free of Islam, let's say. So some people also on the contrary believe that philosophy can stand, of course, within, of course, and for the sake and for the service of Islam. So so far, I've been trying to tell you the methodology of philosophy that is going to be merely rational, and then that is why philosophy is, let's say, a little bit, let's say, distant from fanatic approaches, from radical, let's say, movements, because it's moderate, and rationality is something that has got its own harmony with, for example, the realities and with the other sciences. Okay, thank you very much for staying with me. Now, inshallah, in the next session, we're going to directly to address the relationship between, inshallah, philosophy and Quran. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.